Let's do it. I'm going to call to order the regular session of the Governing Board. It's Tuesday, February 23rd, 7 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. All board members are present. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I'm sorry, with one exception. We are going to move item 8E from the consent agenda and move it down to item 9. It'll become 9C.
You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why are we doing that?
It was requested by a board member. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those against?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Awards and achievement. We have a video first, and then we're going to go up.
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Weitenheimer, and special guests. Tonight, we do begin with our Community of Character and Courage recognition. Deer Valley Unified School District regularly recognizes students, staff, and community members who exemplify strong character and courage. Tonight, we recognize the traits of caring, perseverance, and good citizenship in Boulder Creek High School sophomore Levi Folker, who turned a class project into something bigger.
Well, we culminate the building character unit with the advocacy project.
The goals that I had, like when I first started the project, was that I just wanted to find an organization, represent them in our health advocacy fair, and that was pretty much it. I wanted to get the grade. I hadn't been in hockey very long, but it was still something really important to me. So I was looking for organizations that had to do with hockey. And so I had found one that was called Defending the Blue Line.
It's an organization that helps military families stay involved in the sport of hockey.
My dad served in the military, so the military is something that I've grown up and around, and so to kind of find an organization that helped support the people who protect the nation was just something that was really interesting and was something that I wanted to look more into. I
know hockey is a love and a passion of Levi's, and for them, again, it relates, and that's what this really is all about, the students relating to a particular cause or need. When I had first started the project, I contacted the organization, and they sent me a box, and when I opened the box and out came piles of hockey cards, I was stunned because I couldn't believe that they sent all these. We have 2 lunch periods, and we go out and we promote our organization during both lunch periods. Sometimes the students take the opportunity, not just a school project, but to heart. And that's kind of what happened here with Levi. I went into it thinking that I'll sell some, but it turned out I only sold 1. So it was kind of like a little bit of a letdown, but it actually allowed me to do more with the project. I don't think he felt he got quite what he wanted out of it. And so I was pleased to find out a little bit later on that he had partnered with the Ice Dens. He decided to put together a drive to raise equipment collections and monetary collections. I contacted the head of hockey operations at Ice Den Scottsdale, and he loved the idea. And so this was in the fall, and so we have a tournament over Thanksgiving, over the weekend after Thanksgiving. So that's when we decided that we would do the equipment drive. But we had boxes there all the month of November. And so, but they were at Ice Den Scottsdale and they were at Ice Den Chandler. So we were getting 2 times the amount of equipment than we would at just one location. The hope was the advocacy project would not only just be a project for some in class, but it was an opportunity for them to see how it would continue to flourish throughout a community. We had over 100 pairs of skates, close to 100 pairs of pants,
After that, I don't remember much. I just know that my mom couldn't park in the garage for a few months because the equipment just filled the garage. It wasn't just like old used equipment that was donated. We had equipment that people had forgotten theirs, so they went into the shop right there at the ice den and bought brand new pairs of skates and donated them. So it was kind of interesting to see that these people were doing that, because the hockey equipment's really not cheap, especially skates. So for them to turn around and buy 2-3 pairs of skates for this organization, it was huge, and actually showed that there are people who still care in the world. After all the equipment was collected, we needed to find a way to ship it to Minnesota, and the Coyotes were actually going on a road trip, and Minnesota was one of the stops. So we were kind of hoping that they could bring the equipment up with them. Sadly, they couldn't because they had too many games before the game in Minnesota. But because I was in contact with them, it planted a seed within the organization about defending the blue line. There was a 50-50 raffle for the organization at the home opener against the Penguins. So that raised around $7,000 for the organization, because the pot was up to like $14,000, $15,000. I was so pleased with it. I mean, I didn't expect it to even get that far. I was just hoping to just do an equipment drive and raise a little bit of money and equipment for the organization. I didn't expect it to get as big as the Coyotes actually sponsoring the organization. So it was a surprise.
As a teacher, I feel that the kids surprise me every time. You know you're going to have your traditional, here's what I need to do to get my grade and I'm out, but then you also have some that will go above and beyond because it matters to them. It's not just an assignment. They want to see the world change. They want to see what their impact can be within their community, and that's real heartwarming, and that's what it's all about.
Congratulations to Community of Character and Courage honoree Levi Folker. We invite his family up for the photo, and I don't know if his teacher was going to try to make it. His principal is here. Oh, and Sharon Weiser nominated Levi, and so she is here as well. Oh, his teacher is here. Great. Okay. We will email the picture to you. More than 600 pieces of student artwork were considered for the 2016 Valley Metro Calendar Art Contest. Several of the entries came from students of Desert Mountain visual arts teacher Edie Sands, and the art created by 2 of her students was selected for the 2016 calendar. 3rd grade Desert Mountain student Hayden Wellborn's artwork is featured for March, and another 3rd grade student, Addison Thompson's artwork is featured for November. Congratulations to Hayden Wellborn and Addison Thompson, Valley Metro 2016 calendar contest winners. and unfortunately Hayden is sick and wasn't at school today and is not here tonight. So we'll make sure she gets her certificate. We invite Addison's family up and her teacher. When teacher professional development meets continuous improvement, one result is the Demonstration Classroom of Excellence Recognition Program. This program was developed by the district's Continuous Improvement Support Team, where representatives visit classrooms to witness teachers who use student data to drive learning. Mrs. Cheryl Paul, Director of Organizational Improvement and Professional Learning, is here to recognize our newest Demonstration Classroom of Excellence. Mrs. Paul?
Good evening, President Gregoire, Vice President Baer, members of the Governing Board, and Dr. Weitenheimer, and distinguished guests. Before I introduce the newest Demonstration of Classroom Excellence recipient, I would like to thank Bobby Serro and all of the hard work that she and the Continuous Improvement Support Team members do, all of their commitment to ensure that the demonstration classrooms have the highest marks, and just their commitment. I just want to thank them. Okay. Coach Angie Nope is a physical education teacher at Village Meadows Elementary School year. This year marks her 18th year in education, 10 of which have been here in Deer Valley as a Viking. She embodies a holistic approach to teaching in which she integrates academic content into PE lessons while applying the positive behavior intervention approach to building character and well-rounded students. Whether the students are analyzing class averages to see who ran the most laps, looking at personal data to build upon their personal best, or working through fraction calculations to determine miles ran, Coach Nope's students are crunching the numbers and finding that sportsmanship and a commitment to fitness indeed lead to positive results. Please join me in congratulating Coach Angie Nope. I would like to invite Principal up to the stage to join us for a picture.
Congratulations. Music educators from Arizona can only receive the Arizona Music Educator of the Year Award once in their career. And this was Mountain Ridge High School band director George Hattendorf's year. The award exemplifies excellence in teaching, leadership, and advocacy for music education in Arizona. George Hattendorf played Carnegie Hall as a teenager, marched in the Tournament of Roses parade, and twice performed at presidential inaugurations. However, his work inspiring young people is what is most impressive. Several former students and colleagues wrote letters nominating George for this honor, and two stood out. A fellow music educator wrote, "His students absolutely love him and work hard because of George's devotion to them. George understands the music is the tool that we use as educators to assist our students to grow as young adults." And a student who became a music educator wrote, "In his class, I learned that you should always strive to be better. He expected the best from me, but he helped me along the path to excellence. I know I'm not the only one because I have witnessed firsthand the people who have come back through the years to thank Mr. Hattendorf. You see, George Hattendorf is my father, and I know how many lives he touched." Please join me in congratulating the 2016 Arizona Music Educator of the Year, George Hattendorf. Recently, our district hosted 25 schools from throughout Maricopa County for the Arizona Academic Decathlon Association Region 2 competition. Boulder Creek, Mountain Ridge, and Sandra Day O'Connor high schools competed and qualified for the upcoming state competition. Boulder Creek senior and Position 1 honors competitor Ryan Burdett took part and took home a slew of top honors, including overall outstanding interview, overall outstanding speech, and overall top individual score with a total of 8,005.10 points. Congratulations, academic decathlete Ryan Burdett. We welcome Ryan's family and principal to come up for a photo. As I mentioned, Ryan was awarded with the overall outstanding speech at the Academic Decathlon. So our board members are going to take a seat. Ryan is going to share his 3-minute speech with us on the power of failure. We felt it was so inspirational that we asked him to share it with us tonight.
As was mentioned, my speech is called The Importance of Failure. All of you, but I hope that you can take it back.
That concludes our awards and recognition for tonight.
Just trying to be.
Oh, thank you.
We're just going to take a minute for those that want to step out. We'll take a minute break here and let them go.
You know, I would like to say that Ryan got his start on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, but that would be arrogant. He was, however, a very positive member of the Advisory Council and helped run a number of our summits. He's an amazing young man.
Are you okay? Okay, we're going to pick it up. Governing board reports. We'll start with Mr. Bear over here.
No report this evening.
Hey, Mrs. Fisher.
I don't have much of just gotta turn that on. I don't have much of a report. I just want to thank Marie Brennan and everybody, sponsors and organizers who put together the golf event yesterday. While I do not golf, much to everybody's gratitude, I'm sure. I did attend last night, and it was a wonderful event, and all the efforts that they put towards our children is very beneficial for us all, and so I want to thank them for that. On February 18th, I'm assuming everybody who's associated with school finance received an email from ASBA that the restorative JTED bill was officially signed, and so it's done. It's back. We're funding, and because there was a emergency clause, it's effective immediately. So that's a very good thing for our students. The bill to clean up Title 15 is moving forward. It hasn't had any resistance. And I know that seems like a little thing, but it really cuts some of the red tape that requires us to continually have to put new procedures in, and some of it is silliness. So they're cleaning up Title 15 quite a bit. There's also a whole series of various bills that are going through for tax credit. There's not a lot of resistance in most of them, and they are all geared towards making the use and the ability for teachers to claim tax credit for supplies and just our general use of tax. It's lessening our restrictions, so those are all very good things. That's it.
Mrs. O'Brien.
I would like to congratulate all our winners again tonight and say that tonight was the second time I was blessed enough to hear Ryan's speech, and I'd like to know if you would record that for me so I could play it every morning at my house. That is fabulous. I attended the Parent Organization President's Luncheon last week. It's all starting to blend together. It's wonderful to have those parent leaders come and support all of our schools and our district. Today I sat through a webinar on foster care students in schools. Arizona is working on House Bill 2665. We are, I guess, blessed to be one of the leaders in looking at some data related to what's going on with foster care and students in education and trying to help them. It was disturbing to find out that foster care students perform the poorest in all the categories, including even against English language learners, and they drop out at the highest rates. So I'm looking forward to getting some more information on that House bill and talking to Representative Allen about how that will affect our school districts. And so that's all. Thank you, President Gregoire.
Mrs. Ordway, you okay?
I'm going to try not to choke for this one. Live with Dr. V at New River, a hike at New River with Mr. Migliorino got to join us, the golf tournament. But my favorite part about tonight is a letter that I had received, or I was copied on, that was to Principal Sheehan. It says, I am not sure if you remember who I am, but I graduated from Boulder Creek back in 2012. Where did the time go? I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am to be from BCHS. At the time, I didn't realize how good I had it, but I truly do now. BCHS had set me up for great success in my young life. I am currently a semester away from graduating ASU with a BSc in Industrial Engineering. Honestly, I was quite nervous starting out at ASU, thinking I wasn't prepared to take on engineering level coursework. After about 2 semesters, I learned that not only was I prepared, but I was even more prepared than my fellow classmates from schools like Notre Dame, Prep, and Brophy. With all that said, I am on track to graduate with honors, summa cum laude, and I owe a lot of it to preparation from the school that you run, Mrs. Sheehan. So far, I have had 2 internships, one with Nationwide Insurance and the other with L3Com. At Nationwide, I focused on data analysis, looking at how well their IT department was performing. Now I'm working at L3, working on their supply chains. L3 is the #1 provider of night vision to the U.S. military, so it has a close place to my heart. But what I am so proud of is my young Air Force career is shaping up. If you remember, and if you don't, I understand, I was an Air Force ROTC scholarship recipient. In high school, I wanted to attend the U.S. Air Force Academy, but didn't make the cut. Looking back, not making that cut was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Going to that failure thing, right? For one, it gave me the motivation to make it through these last 4 years. Whenever I felt sluggish, I just remembered someone somewhere thought 1,000 other candidates were better than me, so now I had to prove them wrong. Without the athletic programs at your school, I would for sure not be where I am today. BCHS athletics molded me into what I would consider a very good leader. The colonel in charge of the Air Force ROTC at ASU agreed so much that he made me the cadet wing commander down here at ASU. Currently, I am the highest ranking cadet at ASU. I run the day-to-day operations of over 150 cadets. Wow, did I underestimate the amount of work it is to manage just that many kids, let alone what you do. Today, I found out the best news of my life. The Air Force has selected me to be a pilot. Once I graduate and pin on those gold bars, I will be attending flight school in the world's greatest Air Force. And this would not be possible if it was not for the tight ship. I don't know why I mixed his metaphors there. You ran back at Boulder Creek. As for my commission date, the day I become an officer and the Air Force gets closer, I will give you, as well as other teachers from BCHS, the information, because I would love to have you be a part of that day. Without a handful of select people, including you, I would not have fulfilled this dream I have had since I was a young boy. So thank you. If you ever need anything, let me know. James Bolton. And the reason I read that is I spent a half hour with him on the phone today, and he pointed out the importance of the teamwork, the camaraderie, the choice of friends, and all that goes into becoming an exemplary human being. So he is available, as I'm sure you're going to be, to speak with large or small groups of our students, teachers, and faculty to let you know exactly the impact that you make and what kind of an impact the students that we're making will have on our world. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ann. I had the chance to live with Dr. V at New River School. And thank you, Marie, sorry, you're Maria. She's not here, tired out from yesterday, the golf tournament, but they raised a lot of money for our staff. Also, I had a chance to visit Deer Valley and Boulder Creek campuses, and I learned a lot more than I used to know, as always, when I do campus visits. So that's it for me. Dr. V.
Thank you, President Gregoire. I'm going to pass time. We've got a number of other reports that we want to give tonight, so I will pass and ask Dr. Galligan to visit with us a little bit about state testing for the spring of 2016.
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer, and guests. In our report this evening, Mary Beth Highland, Kathy Borgeson, and I will provide information about the state assessments DVUSD is required to administer to students. These assessments include the AZ Merit, AIM Science, Azella, CTE, Arizona Skill Standards assessments, and the civics test. Information will include descriptions of the assessments, testing dates, delivery methods, students who are required to test, and communication formats for relaying assessment information to staff, parents, guardians, and students.
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer, and all those in attendance. I am Mary Beth Highland, and I'm assisting in coordinating the AZ Merit and AIM state assessments here at Deer Valley. AZ Merit is a statewide achievement test to measure student proficiency on the Arizona College and Career Ready standards for math and English language arts. AZ Merit tests will affect the majority of our student population. All public school children in grades 3 through 8 and high school students taking the identified courses are required to test. There is no opt-out option approved by the state at this time. Only students that have significant cognitive disabilities and whose IEP designate them as eligible for alternative assessment will be exempt. Students in grades 3 through 8 will take an English language arts writing test, an ELA reading test, and a math test. Students enrolled in certain high school courses will take an end-of-course assessment. ELA writing and reading will be administered in high school to students enrolled in grade 9 through 11 English courses, and math tests will be administered to high school students enrolled in the state equivalents of Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. New to this 2016 administration, students enrolled in the 7th or 8th grade that are taking high school level courses are no longer required to take both the 7th and 8th grade test and the appropriate end of course test. They're only going to be required to take the appropriate high school level exam. The testing window for DVUSD schools will open on Tuesday, March 29th and close on Friday, May 6th. Schools are responsible for scheduling testing for their students. The state provides a long testing window as computer-based tests require scheduling of available computers for all students that need to test. ADE advises that the AZ Merit is designed to be computer-based, and students who participate in the computer-based assessment will have a richer testing experience and access to a broader range of accessibility tools. Last year, 33 of our schools took the computer-based AZ Merit test. This year, 100% of DVUSD schools will be computer-based, compared to that of 70% of the state. The only students that will get a paper-based test are those that require that as an accommodation. School test coordinators received training on all aspects of AZ Merit administration on February 9th. These school test coordinators will conduct training on their campuses with their staff in the upcoming weeks. A DVUSD portal page has been dedicated to state assessments and includes information and links related to AZ Merit. The district website and school websites have information about AZ Merit for parents and students. Specific testing schedules will be available prior to spring break on each school's website. We will provide a testing schedule search feature, just as we did last year, in which a teacher's name and course and period can be selected and the class testing schedule will be produced for the parent. Additionally, campuses will inform parents of AZ Merit information with letters, announcement, and school messenger alerts. The AZ Merit results are important for the district and schools in looking at student achievement and growth. The information can help inform decisions around student placement, program quality, and curriculum needs. AZ Merit results directly impact Move On When Reading statute requirements in that third grade students whose results meet certain criteria are provided with additional reading assistance. Beginning in spring of 2016, the AZ Merit Family Report will also include longitudinal data from the prior year. At this time, 2016 AZ Merit results will not be used to generate a district or letter grade for the 2015-16 school year. Additionally, the state has a tentative time frame of mid-June to provide our district with student results. The AIM Science Test is designed to measure student proficiency of the Arizona Academic Content Standards in science. It will be administered to the appropriate grades at DVUSD schools on April 14th via paper and pencil. Students in grades 4, 8, and 9 will take the AIM Science Test. Additionally, students in 10th grade who did not take the test last year will also be required to test. High schools will have a late start day on April 14th, in which testing students will begin at the normal start time, and students that are not testing will begin at 11 a.m. School test coordinators were provided access to electronic training for AIM Science. The coordinators will conduct training on their campuses with the specific staff who will be involved in administering this assessment. Similarly to AZ Merit, the DVUSD portal has information and links related to the Ames Science Assessment. Students and parents can also find information about Ames Science on the district and school websites. Schools will also inform parents with newsletters, announcement, and school messenger alerts.
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer, and guests. The Arizona English Language Learner Assessment, also called AZELA, is a standards-based assessment that meets both state and federal requirements to measure English language proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. The AZELA is used for both student placement and reassessment purposes. Information about the AZELA test and testing procedures are communicated to certified and classified staff involved in administering the test through ELL meetings, AZELA-specific sessions, students and parents, and students are identified as second language learners on the home language survey. They take the AZELA placement test. Students' proficiency scores determine the appropriate placement for instruction. Students placed into an English language learner program will also take AZELA reassessment once per year until language proficiency is achieved. Students eligible for ELL services but who have been withdrawn from the program by their parents will continue to participate in the annual AZELA reassessment until they reach an overall proficiency level of proficient. Parents may opt out of ELL services but may not opt out of AZELA annual reassessment testing. Over 600 students will take the AZELA reassessment this spring. 50% of those students are in grades K through 2. The placement test is administered within 30 days of the first day of school or within 2 weeks of enrollment. The DVUSD reassessment window for this school year is February 8th through March 25th. The testing format is paper pencil for the reading, writing, and listening portions of the assessment, and oral via speakerphone for the speaking portion of the test. The Arizona Department of Education is exploring the idea of making AZELA stages 3, 4, and 5 computer-based for grades 3 through 12 in the 2018-2019 school year. The data that the AZELA placement test provides is used to determine placement into English language learner programs. It is also used by the ELL teachers and site coordinators to differentiate instruction and coordinate class groupings. The AZELA reassessment results are used to measure student language proficiency, growth, and to reclassify the student's level of language acquisition. The results are also used as a state accountability measure. Information about the AZELA test and testing procedures are communicated to the certified and classified staff involved in administering the test through ELL meetings and AZELA-specific training sessions. Students and parents are notified about testing dates and procedures through individual letters and/or phone calls to the home. The Career and Technical Education Arizona Skills Standards Assessment validates attainment of technical skills standards. Students receive a State Skills Standards Commission certificate and transcript if scoring at or above the state-designated passing score. Deer Valley Unified School District students will participate in the assessment during the testing window of March 28th through April 28th. The assessment is computer-based and administered online. Students in the final year of a program sequence will participate in the CTE Arizona Skills Standards Assessment. That could be year 2 or 3 of a program, depending on the course sequence. 770 high school students in grades 10 through 12 will be participating this year. The results of the CTE Arizona Skills Standards Assessment are used to determine students' technical skill attainment. This assessment also provides a performance measure that is reported as part of the Carl Perkins funding requirements. Additionally, the results are used as part of the West MEC Total Quality Indicators on-site review. Assessment procedures and information are communicated with the certified and classified staff responsible for administering the assessment during CTE department meetings. As with all state and district level assessments, all Deer Valley Unified School District employees have access to testing dates and information through the DVUSD Assessment Plan Handbook and assessment calendars posted on the portal. Students and parents are notified of testing information through classroom announcements, letters home, and the DVUSD CTE website page.
In 2015, the Arizona legislature passed the American Civics Act, House Bill 2064. This bill requires students beginning in the graduating class of 2017 to pass a civics test based on the United States Immigration and Naturalization civics questions. Students are required to score 60% or higher in order to graduate from high school or obtain a high school equivalency certificate. Deer Valley's plan for implementation of the civics test is in line with many of our surrounding districts. For the 15-16 school year, all students in grades 7 through 11 will test and have been testing in their social studies course, or in the case of 9th grade, testing in a course determined by the high school. The rationale behind testing all students in grades 7 through 11 this year is to complete that graduation requirement for as many students as possible prior to the graduation requirement year, and to further determine the best grade levels to administer future civics tests. For the 2016-17 school year, when the graduation requirement does go into effect, we will test all 8th grade and 11th grade students, as well as seniors who have not yet passed the exam this year. The testing will take place in their social studies courses. For the 2017-18 school year and beyond, students who have not passed the civics test the previous year will be tested in their 8th grade social studies class. Students in 11th grade who have not passed the exam will also be tested in their course. Any remaining senior students, including transfer students without verification of passing the civics exam, will be retested until they obtain a passing score and meet the graduation requirement. The testing window for the exam this school year has been from the beginning of the school year through March 18th, with the following week being our spring break, and then immediately after that, AZ Merit begins. The test is administered online using DVUSD's Horizon Assessment System and School City Assessment System. The majority of the test is multiple choice with 8 short answer items. Since only whether or not a student has passed is required to be reported on the transcript, the short answer items are only scored if a student scores between 52 and 59% on the multiple choice items. The results of the assessment are reported on a student's transcript as either passed, not passed, or exempt. Currently, our data shows that 70% of our 7th through 11th grade students have taken the civics test so far. We have 4 weeks until the window closes. Of those, 77% have successfully passed the civics test. It is interesting to note that 85% of our 8th grade students and 93% of our 11th grade students have proficient scores on the civics test. This leads us to understand that the vast majority of questions can be mastered by 8th grade. Instructions for administering the civics test have been emailed to school administration, and information about the assessment, study materials, and sample test questions have been posted on our portal. The DVUSD website contains information for students and parents. Specific test dates will be communicated with students by classroom teachers as we move forward next year and into following years. Please let us know if you have any questions that we can either answer this evening or provide for you in a Friday update about state assessments this spring.
Oh my God, I have a question.
Mrs. Ordway.
For the civics test, how are we going to support the students that have not passed if the content area in the social studies that they're in, whatever year they're in, is not part of the civics?
President Gregoire, Ms. Ordway, that will be something that our social studies courses at the high school level will be looking at. Specifically, we have a number of websites that we have had created, teacher created, that are very specific in providing study guides as well as practice questions and practice assessments for that civics test.
Okay, and then how are we accounting for what seems to be, there could be a 4-week lesser instruction or more instruction with the window of testing for Arizona Merits? If it's open from March 29th through May 6th, and we're not all taking it at the same time, are we accounting for that difference in instructional?
President Gregoire, Ms. Ordway, are you referring to AZ Merit?
Yes.
Okay, I will refer to Miss Mary Beth.
At this time, the state has not had any way to account for what date the students actually take the test. We do know that the amount of instruction that a child has before an assessment can obviously be in their best interest. Unfortunately, due to the fact that it's computer-based and some of our campuses may have a 1-to-1 ratio and some of them may not, it depends on the logistics of the campus how early they have to set their schedule. So at this point, because we don't trace the day that the child takes the assessment, we don't have a way to look at the data on the back end to see if that's truthfully making a difference. I will tell you that districts within the state have gotten together to say that that is an issue, especially when you have smaller districts in our surrounding areas that can wait till the end of the window. But the the Arizona Department of Education has said until we can all have a better ratio of devices to students, we have to have that 5-week window.
Okay, my last question is how many of the tests that you just explained overlap?
So the AIMS Science test is a 1-day test, and it is within the window of AZ Merit. We are completing the civics assessment prior to AZ Merit opening. Azella is complete as well before AZ Merit will begin. And then the CTE assessments, I believe, are also complete before AZ Merit begins.
What were the dates for CTE again?
I believe that we will be finished by Friday, March 18th.
Okay. All right. I just want to, because there's a lot of tests we're talking about.
It is a lot of tests, yes. We are doing our best to try and not overlap them when possible.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Bear. Go ahead.
So, the civics test, it says it's based on the United States Immigration and Naturalization civics questions. So, do we have any samples of that we could review?
President Gregoire, Mr. Bear, we have actually, since mid-fall, been providing at least 2 of the civics questions every week out to our employees through our DV News. We have the sample test available in our portal, so if you would like, we can certainly print that out and have it to you.
Yeah, I'd be interested in looking at that.
We will do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I actually have a couple. And this is kind of just getting down to the bones of it. How many days testing does a student have? I know it ranges depending on the grade, but a maximum for these state required tests, these federal required tests, how many days are we as a kid out of the classroom taking these tests? Anyone? Range?
AZ Merit would be 2 days.
Or just itemize each one just real quick.
The civics test would be a single sitting. So I would say anywhere from an hour upward to 2 hours. The Azella test is also a day of testing, since it encompasses reading, writing, speaking, listening. Some of it's on paper and some of it is oral. AZ Merit.
AZ Merit, depending upon the grade level, would be a 2 or 3 day assessment. And AIMS Science is completed in 1 day. It's 2 parts completed in 1 day.
And I just remember reading an article about the AZ Merit and the 3rd grade pass or fail. And I guess that line in the sand hasn't been drawn. Do you guys have any inside input on where that line is and how?
Yeah.
I think what they're referring to would be the move on when reading statute, not so much a pass-fail. The move on when reading statute requires that students that are below a certain threshold receive additional assistance in reading before they can move on to 4th grade. Last year, I know it affected a very small number of students here at Deer Valley, and we made sure that we were on the front end of the communication if we thought that it would be a larger number. But that's what they're talking about mostly in the news, is that move on when reading statute.
I had them crossed then. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Seeing no other questions, we can move on. Yeah, Scott, he's there. He knows what he's doing.
Good evening. President Gregoire, members of the governing board, Dr. V, I have a really short presentation on just the planning phase of our employee satisfaction survey that we're in the midst of. Just want to keep you up to date where we are with the survey this year. The survey will be very similar to a last couple of years, with the exception we've added a couple of questions. We've mostly added questions to form better alignment with some of our key strategic objectives in our strategic plan. And for the board's pleasure, we've also added a Net Promoter Score at the end of the survey. We will administer this survey internally. It'll be electronic access, launched with a URL. If you remember, in the previous last couple of years, we had the survey administered with the help of Hanover Research. That was one of the things, that contract with Hanover was one of the things we cut in our latest budget efforts for this year. The survey will be accessed with a URL, or they could go. An employee can go straight to the portal and take it, but they don't have to take it on the portal. They can grab that URL and take it from any machine or device of their choosing. We are planning to launch this next Monday and keep it open for at least 2 weeks. Kind of a critical time frame here. That kind of gives us another week after that if we need to extend the survey window, so and not force us to run into the spring break week. So that would be 3 weeks total if we decide to do that. And we will also compile and report the results internally, very similar to the reports that we've seen in the last couple of years, with kind of the full district report, and then each school and each department will have their own report, and then we'll generate the open-ended comments that schools and departments on their own can locally analyze. These are the same components we've had in the survey for the last couple of years, the same sections of the survey, set of questions on mission, vision, and goals, and then the district office and board leadership, general work environment, your department work environment and leadership of your department, and then the campus leadership and work environment. The questions we added, there's one question we added to the district office and board leadership just to get at the level of support employees feel they get for deploying continuous improvement. And then we added one question to the general work environment just to get at the level that employees feel their evaluation is supporting their goals. And then finally, at the very end, we added the Net Promoter Score. In terms of confidentiality and anonymity, I know this is an issue, and it's important to me and to us as a district. Just the things we've put in place to kind of impress upon people that we're trying to keep it as confidential as possible is, first of all, again, the URL does not have to come straight off the portal. You can take it anywhere and take the survey. Second of all, we will not capture any IP addresses. Those will not be recorded with the survey tool. There are only 2 survey questions that could be used to identify individuals, and they are: where do you work and what type of position are you in? It's very hard to identify a specific person with just those 2 questions, with perhaps the exception of a school administrator. If I told you I work at Desert Sage and I'm an administrator, then you probably know who I am. However, we will only aggregate data and report data on populations of 10 or more people. So, for example, there will not be a report for school administrators at Desert Sage, and we'll keep it only rolled up so we can keep it as confidential as possible. And finally, just real quickly, by launching the survey maybe a week earlier than we did last year, and by having the in-house administration and in-house compilation of the data, we'll turn this around much faster than we have in the last couple of years. I hope actually to get it turned around probably over the spring break time and come back maybe in late or in early April with a report on some of the findings. And doing that also allows us to launch the parent community survey much earlier than we did last year. If you remember last year, we launched that right at the end of the year into the summer, so school was not even in session, and had a very poor response rate as a result. If we launch that earlier this year, we expect to get better response rates and have better results to report to you. And that's what I have.
Okay, any questions? Actually, I do, and it comes to the confidentiality, and I know that's the, that really goes down to trust. There's a lot there, especially since we're doing it in-house. I think a lot of people are going to read that, and you know, I like doing it in-house because of cost savings. And number two, the company we had was very, very slow in delivering their results. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why we're doing it in-house, or the reasons why we're doing it in-house. But with that being said, and I would ask that, have we ever had anybody come back and say, hey, the response I put in the survey, people found out and I got any backlash? And I'm asking Maria here, and I'm asking Jim and Gail, and have you heard anything like that at all, or? Okay. Yeah. And again, I've never really heard anything direct, and that's why I want to chime on. If we can, all as anybody in this room, have any questions about it and things we can do in your mind to make this a more secure and more anonymous test, by all means, pass them on to the superintendent and Scott Smith, because it is not our intent to. We just want to find out how we're doing, and it's not our intent to attack. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Anyway, I can't invite you to speak here. I'm sorry, because there's protocol, but I do invite you to pull my shirt after the meeting, or Dr. V's or anyone's, Scott's there to ask, give them suggestions, because our intent. Nope, not at all. So, any other questions, Mrs. Fisher?
Actually, it's more of, I did have someone come to me directly last year, and they stated that the results were provided to their principal, the solid results for their school, with comments and whatnot. And the statement they made is that information was, they weren't called out by name, but the information was provided in a staff meeting, and they were very upset by it. My concern is, are we providing, we should of course provide the data to the principals, because that's the purpose, to see where there's issues so that we can address them. But overall issues, not individual, this person, that person, this person had an issue. Is there safeguards in place so that does not occur? And is there a possibility of having, are you collecting it through a Survey Monkey, or is it, so how can it possibly go to two people?
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, there's, it is through a tool like Survey Monkey, and the results are compiled at a level of where, at least from my impression, individual schools or departments can take action. If I don't know that this set of results, if I just know, 2,500 or 3,000 surveys, and not knowing exactly where they are, it's much harder to take action with the survey results, which has been one of our issues in the past, is how do we action the things that we're hearing? If I know, hey, here's 50 or 80 that are at a specific school and they have a trend, I can start to drill down and take action. Probably the primary thing I could promise to you is I would not, again, as I've said, deliver any results to anybody if it's less than 10 people, whether they be comments or responses to items on the survey. I cannot promise you that it will be impossible to find out who somebody is. If you tell me, hey, my name is Scott Smith and I work at Stetson Hills and I've got an issue with the principal, and that goes in a set of 30 comments to the principal, then she knows who I am. I can't guarantee you people won't do that, but there's nothing in the survey that asks specific questions that will allow anybody to say, yep, I know exactly who this is.
So I guess what I'm saying is the survey, if you ask the survey, it can give data and perhaps not provide the comments directly to the principal. We had the same problem when I did these surveys before as well. So I guess I'm not really sure what the answer is, but I think it's important that we find a way to protect the teachers and the staff so that they feel comfortable with answering the questions, because we truly want to know how they feel as employees of the district, so that if there is issues, we can resolve them. I don't know if there's a possibility of considering an alternative to providing the data but not the comment. I know when I used to get these surveys, some of the comments, okay, the associate soup for business's secretary makes $90,000 a year. No, number one, I was not a secretary, and no, I didn't make $90,000 a year. Everybody knew what it was, though, and it was sent district-wide. We had a lot of answering to do. It's those kind of things can, the comments, I just don't know if there's an alternative that perhaps you've thought of.
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, I don't know if there's a question in there. I think I certainly can spend some spend some time thinking about scrubbing comments. It's a tedious job, but if we wanted to say, let's scrub those comments to make sure there's nothing that can identify people, and also have a discussion about who gets those comments, I'm certainly willing to do that.
I think the just discussion of who gets the comments would probably, I think it would solve the issue, because you can't control what people do, but we can control who we give it to. That's the only thing I can think of.
Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. President. To pick up on the last scenario, if there are people out there, employees that have concerns about this issue, please speak with the board members individually after the meeting or whatever and let us know. I think it's interesting that we're having this discussion, because I think the mere fact that we're having this discussion shows a lack of trust. That's kind of a problem, I think. And we need to have a survey that can give us the feedback we need in an honest fashion without people being worried that that's creating a problem for them. So whatever we need to do to get that done, that's what we'll try to do.
President Gregoire?
Go ahead, Mrs.
I think this is an important discussion, and we certainly do want all of our employees to feel that they have a safe working environment and can provide comments. But I would not want to characterize this discussion to say that this means we have a complete lack of trust in our district. I think what it does say about our district is that we care deeply about our employees and making a difference. We want to find out what they think, and we want to, as Dr. Smith was saying, drill down so that we can make changes for the better for all employees as well as our students, and be the extraordinary organization that we are. Thank you, President Gregoire.
And again, I have to disagree with you, Mr. Bear. I think the reason we're reiterating this is because we all feel that we need to build those bridges, and we do have, I have complete confidence and trust in Dr. Smith and everybody that's involved, and I think we all need to, if we don't have those, we need to have a conversation. But seriously, going forward, I really believe that we can do this the right way and get very good data back. So,
Well, Mr. Gregoire, this has been a problem every year that I've been on the board, so this doesn't seem to be something that's gone away. So it certainly indicates something. So,
okay. Any other questions, comments? Let's move on. Human resources, Jenna.
Good evening, President Gregoire, Governing Board members, and Dr. Weitenheimer. Today, I will be providing you with an update on our 2016-2017 certified staffing. Our certified staffing timeline for the 16-17 school year began on February 1st. At that time, campuses had met with the HR department, reviewed their on-campus staffing allocations, and began posting positions for on-campus reassignment. On February 5th, positions were posted for in-district transfer, and on February 19th, positions unfilled by internal candidates were posted to the outside. As of this morning, there are 35 positions posted for high school, 1 at the middle school, and 38 at the K-8 level, and 19 positions posted for K-6 campuses. Please note that postings do not necessarily equate a 1.0 FTE, as some campuses decide to fill their vacancies with part-time staffing due to scheduling or changes in programming, and also sometimes just because it is a part-time allocation. Postings are on trend with prior years at this point of the year. During this phase of staffing, it is common to see the number of vacancies and needs that you see on our postings. We anticipate that we will be working diligently to find special education positions, areas such as math, science, and world languages, and last year we found it increasingly difficult to find teachers who were qualified to take positions in the arts. You will also see that we have postings, if you were to look today, at kindergarten all the way through 6th grade. In order to fill vacancies, both the Human Resources Department and building level leaders will be actively recruiting this spring. This slide, you will see that we are already scheduled to recruit at 13 events. Highlighted in red, our DVUSD certified job fair is scheduled on April 9th. Last year, this was our most successful event, along with online recruiting. We also continue to work with all of our student teachers and find this strategy to be helpful in filling vacancies with qualified candidates. As this school year progresses, we will continue to keep the board informed of staffing progress. As a point of interest, certified contracts are currently scheduled to be issued during the week of March 14th, and employees may continue to have the opportunity to apply for transfer up until June 3rd. After that point, reassignment is allowed and outside candidates may fill vacancies. Regarding open enrollment, this evening I'm providing the board with information on our progress with the 2016-2017 open enrollment applications. As you recall, we advertised and encouraged our parent and guardian community to apply for open enrollment before December 11th in order to have priority consideration with spring staffing. Those applications, along with new applications submitted through January and so far this February, have been reviewed and used as part of the 16-17 staffing allocations for each of our 38 campuses. As of this morning, there have been 2,303 applications submitted for next school year. Included in these are 105 pending applications that we had today. 1,570 applications have been requests made by students living within our boundaries or already attending one of our DVUSD schools. 733 of these applications came from students not attending or living outside of DVUSD boundaries. To date, 1,513 applications have been approved both by the school and Human Resources. The remaining applications have either been denied, waitlisted by the campus, or student support services based on physical capacity or other data that allows for a school to deny a request. A detailed report, including the approvals, denials, and wait lists by each campus, will be provided to the board in this Friday's update. Many of our schools are at physical capacity and can no longer accept open enrollment applications at specific grade levels. You will see these schools listed here. The Human Resources Department continues to stay in contact with these schools, monitoring the number of students who enroll. Each student has 10 days to enroll after their application has been approved. Should room become available, the school will once again take applications. We also encourage applicants to consider their second and third choices, as well as prompt parents to consider other schools that they did not list on their application. Open enrollment applications have certainly influenced our 16-17 staffing processes and allocations. Based on newly approved open enrollment, 17 FTEs have been added to original staffing allocations for the 16-17 school year in order to address open enrollment approvals for kindergarten through 12th grade. In addition, we believe our new process has allowed us to be timelier, and we are hopeful better predictive of next school year's staffing. And I'll take any questions regarding staffing or open enrollment.
Any questions, anyone? Actually, I just have one. It's on perspective. What were we looking at this time last year, open enrollment? Right now, we're at 2303 applications. Do you know what we were sitting at last year?
No, President Gregoire, we are now taking a record of where we are on a monthly basis with open enrollment applications. The open enrollment application electronic system that we use does not have the ability to capture a point in time, so we have to do that manually. In other words, we don't have the ability to look at where we were last year.
Okay, and I'm sure hiring 17 FTE, I know we're doing better, but again, it's nice to be able to quantify that. So. Now, you said some of these are being denied or because the school was physically filled up. And you used the term or, not and. What are some of the reasons for being denied?
Other reasons that might be included for a school to deny an application would be a request to return after they have been exited from the school on open enrollment, and that could be because of a discipline record, and it also could be because of lack of attendance.
Okay. That's all I have. Anyone else? No. Thank you. Move on to old business. Approved negotiation solution team recommended salary increase as a result of the maintenance and operation override election. Mr. Bear.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the negotiation solutions team, that would be the NST, recommended salary increase as a result of the M&O operations override.
Second.
Okay, do we have one? I think we have some speakers at this. Okay. Lauren, you want to speak at the end or here? At the end, okay. And Darcy, that was something else. I guess we don't have any public speakers here. So with that, anybody want to talk about this, or are we all in agreement?
President Gregoire.
Go ahead.
President Gregoire, members of the board, I did want to note that we did provide to the board an update. The negotiation solution team did meet this afternoon. So there are two changes to the memorandum of understanding, or what we refer to as the MOU. One of those changes was included in what was provided in the board packet, and that's the second to last sentence in the first paragraph that simply states future salary and benefit changes for 2016-17, especially any related to the passage of Proposition 123, will be considered in future recommendations. That was a result of the comments from the preview of this item previously at the February 9th meeting. The change from this afternoon's negotiation solution team meeting was the addition of the words "to the base rate of" or "to the base salary of" in each of the three employee groups. So it reads now, reading from the DVUSD, since it's the first one, agrees to a flat increase to the base rate of all classified employees, et cetera. That language was added as we received some additional input from the NST group that there was some question as to whether or not this was added to the salary or a one-time salary expense, one-time addition, which we have done previously. So just in order to eliminate some of the questions and confusions of the employees, was just trying to clarify that this was going to be added to their base salary. And I'd be happy to answer any additional questions from the board.
Okay. I'm just going to say my piece here. When we first started talking about, at least myself, when I first started talking about the override funds, I felt number one thing we needed to do was to support our employees. And we, in the past, when we've talked about funds and raises, is always put in terms of percent. And what happens is when you talk about percent, those that are getting $60,000 a year versus those that are getting $30,000, the $60,000 person is going to get double the amount because their percentage of $60,000 is double the percentage of $30,000 in real dollars. And that's kind of created a wider and wider gap. And it's been made abundantly clear this last couple of years that we have not just teachers, but classified people who are struggling to make it. And we have a lot of new teachers that are leaving the business because there's not enough money there. So I felt strongly from the get-go that I'm throwing percentages out the window because for us to right the ship, to make those salaries at least somewhat sustainable for those people, we need to give them flat raises. Flat increase for everyone. And in that context, I was speaking overall, not divided into special groups of classified, certified, and admin. And anyway, I know NST took on the direction of the board, and they did divide it into three groups, and each of the groups are getting different amounts. And that's not what I had in my head, because everybody needs to be appreciated. Don't get me wrong, but we're in a situation where we can't find teachers. We have a lot of hard to fill positions that are on the bottom end of the scale. If you look at the top end of the scale, we're fully staffed there. And so what part of this was to help remedy that problem by giving everybody a flat raise. And by splitting it up into three groups, it somewhat accomplished it, but not to the extent that I'd want. So I am not going to vote against this because we did the process and I have to honor the process. But going forward on other monies, I'm going to be firm in the fact that whatever extra monies that are going to be coming down the pike, it's going to be a flat raise, not divided by groups. And I'm sending that message to the NSC committee and everybody else that I'm not going to vote for that. Okay? I was, like I said, the groups agreed upon it, and we have to honor the system because again, everybody put in the work to do it. And I'm not want to defeat all the efforts that were put in, but anyway, I've said my piece. So, anyone else? Miss.
I kind of thought we had said our piece before, and I wasn't going to comment, but after Mr. Gregoire's statement, I just feel it's important that I make this comment, or at least it's important for me. I've mulled over these numbers and I've looked at this a lot, and I agree our teachers need a raise, our staff need a raise. But the reason with the division of, if you take this to a teacher 9 months versus an admin who's 12 months, you're talking a difference of $3. $155 a month or $158 a month. If you want to change it to where it's, I understand we want to treat and honor all of our employees the same. We want to honor them all because we have a hard-working group, but we also have to honor the fact that they do maintain different schedules. They maintain different, just they're different in general. And I think as a board, it's important that we support this and support, because this is what our 3 groups have said they want. And we can't say no. This is what you have said, each group you want. And as a board, I think we need to support it, but we need to make sure that the message is out there that this was decided, because on a monthly basis, it is fair and equitable. It is the same. That being said, we have a lot of inequities that we can deal with during 1, 2, 3, but at this point in time, I don't want to see this board undo the unity that each group comes together when they're working together. I ask that each group continues to work together, and hopefully we will get that next pot of money, and then we can address scale and inequities, or we can move forward, but we can't stagnate. That's all I'm asking, is that you keep working together.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Oh, Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have some concerns about this. Basically, I'm going to echo what Mr. Gregoire said. It's certainly not perfect. It might be unrealistic to think we're ever going to get a perfect situation. But I agree with Mr. Gregoire. Next time around, we're going to maybe vote on this a little different. I am going to vote for this. I'm not going to hold this up because of my concerns. But I just want you to know I do have some concerns about how this got structured. But it is voted on by the group, and I'm going to honor the process also.
Call the vote. Oh, sorry, Ann, go ahead.
I just would like to say thank you to the hard work of the NST, and how nice it is to see that those 3 groups work together to come to an agreement. I think it is a good first step, and I think it's important for our district, all of the employees in our district, to be working together in something like this. This is a first step, though, much like our override was, and Prop 123 money would be. It's the next step in the process. So we still have a lot of work to do, but I would hate to see this hard work undermined. We need to keep going forward. So thank you to all of you who put in all that time and effort.
Okay, any other? Ann? Nope. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 5-0. Item 8A, consent agenda, or 8. Motion?
You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. President, I would like to move that the board approve the consent agenda with the omission of item 8D, which is moved to the next action item 9, it become 9C. Other than that, I would move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, 5-0. Action item 9A, approve human resources changes. Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Gregoire. I would move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the human resources changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a public speaker at this time. Oh, we have a public speaker at this time, so I would, can we bring up the timer and the Dana Mitchell? Mr. Bear's going to articulate us a statement, and then you can speak. Go ahead, Ron.
The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any item not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask a staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Mitchell. Come up to the microphone and state your name, and then go ahead and speak.
I'm Dana Mitchell, the developmental preschool teacher at Constitution. I'm listed on the Human Resources changes again as being recommended for non-renewal of my contract. I'm asking to hold an executive session so I can show why I am continuing to be an asset to developmental preschool and to Deer Valley. I began teaching developmental preschool when it first opened in Louisiana in the mid-1980s. Yes, that ages me. I taught in this program for almost 10 years. I was chosen to be the special ed teacher to pilot the first mainstreaming of many of our preschools into 8 different kindergarten classes in 8 different schools over the district. The next school year, this successful program went district-wide. I had to leave this program to move to Arizona with my family. My daughter was going into kindergarten, so I chose to teach kindergarten at whatever district or school she attended to have the same schedule and to maximize my time with her. She went to private school, so I ended up there as well. I knew I would eventually be coming back to teach preschool special ed. I've always been known for being a strong, kind, caring, and supportive teacher and colleague. I am willing to go the extra mile or volunteer for committees and or projects. For my entire career, I have always stayed current in early childhood methodologies and in special education. During my 3 years in Deer Valley, I have loved and grown and changed with the preschool team here. We support each other and learn from each other while building a positive climate for us and for our children. I would like to continue to learn from the others here in Deer Valley and to share with them my ideas and to help our children to grow and learn. From the bottom of my heart, I'm asking that you allow me to have an executive session with you, the governing board, in order to have the chance to show you my dedication to the preschool students and their families in Deer Valley School District. Thank you for the consideration.
Okay. With that, board have any comments, questions? And amend the, if you're so inclined, you can amend the current item.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can we ask a question to Aaron?
Sure can. Aaron, our attorney's here to.
About the executive session, did that procedurally need to be requested in a certain time frame?
Thank you. President Gregoire, Ms. O'Brien, pursuant to district policy, a teacher who wants to contest an evaluation has 10 days to do it in. Following after the teacher's informed of the results of the evaluation. And so it is my opinion that a request now to challenge the evaluation would be late. An employee, I guess, could always request that the board consider the proposal or the recommendation being made by the administration for non-renewal, and the board certainly has discretion to entertain that and to consider any issues that the board thinks it should consider in making a decision on the proposed non-renewal. And so to answer your question, I don't think that the teacher, Ms. Mitchell, has the right, but the board certainly has the discretion.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, go ahead, Mrs. Fisher.
You said that they have 10 days to dispute the evaluation. I believe the request is an executive session to evaluate the whole situation and consider the non-renewal, correct? Is that what I heard?
I would just assume that she wanted to appeal her non-renewal. I think that was abundantly clear.
Now, is there a time frame for when that can be made? And if there is, did Ms. Mitchell have opportunity to make that request?
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, there is no right for a probationary teacher to have a hearing for a proposed non-renewal pursuant to 15-536. A continuing teacher has that right, but a probationary teacher does not. And so the appeal mechanism, if you will, for an inadequacy of classroom performance process would be to challenge the evaluations during that 10-day period that I articulated earlier.
So this is the only methodology she would have to request an executive session? We don't have anything else in place?
I'm not aware of any other appeal procedure. The appeals, again, would need to be, the appeal would need to be taken at the time the evaluation results are disclosed to the teacher. And that's pursuant to state statute that probationary teachers do not have appeal rights they don't have hearing rights for non-renewals at the end of the school year if the board decides to non-renew. Again, the board certainly has discretion if it so chooses to hear the issues and to weigh the evidence and to evaluate the recommendation as it sees fit.
That being said, I would like to amend the item to approve the human resource changes, removing Ms. Mitchell and considering an executive session to hear her concerns.
Did we not already have a motion?
Yes.
I'm amending.
Amend the motion.
Okay.
The amendment is to pull Mrs. Mitchell off the human rights,
human resources.
No, we're pulling her off.
We're either going to pull her off and have an executive session, or we're going to move forward as is.
We have a motion, we don't have a second yet, so.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on this, or I'll just call for the vote?
I have a question. We did all receive that I think it's 40, 50 page, 95 page detailed report, correct? Did we all get that?
Mm-hmm.
And we all had an opportunity to ask any questions prior to this evening? Did we get any questions?
Well, I think we've already talked that. You've asked.
All right. I'm just wondering.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of address or having the executive session and setting this, aye. All those in favor say aye. Excuse me. That wasn't my vote. That was just.
Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
Nay. 2 to 3. So let's go back to the original motion. If there's any other conversation, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the original motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
I maintain there's concerns with our process. I will abstain.
Okay, so the last vote was 4 to 1. 1, or 311.
311.
Okay, let's move on to item 9B, approve resolution authorizing the execution of warrants between board meetings per district policy DK. Jim.
President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer, I wanted to give special recognition to Ms. Fisher for bringing a question to us regarding our process related to the signing of the vouchers. And as a review of that process, we were unable to find one of the resolutions that's in our board policy as to when it was last approved. We have vetted this through our external auditing firm of the firm of Heinfeld Meach and Company. They have validated the process that we're doing for executing the vouchers. We just don't have evidence that this resolution, or when this resolution, if it was ever approved by the board. So we're asking for the board to approve this. This is in the resolution that supports the policy DK that would allow us to sign vouchers in between the board meeting and distribute the warrants as we work through the process to get the final and formal approval, not only the signatures, but eventually the board to approve them as you do regularly. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, before that, Mr. Bear would make the formal motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of warrants between board meetings per district policy DK.
Do you have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, sorry. You had a comment.
Well, I did have a comment, but it's
Go
just
ahead.
one that I've already sent a thing to Jim that I still have a few questions on this issue, but the item definitely needs to occur, so I vote aye for it. And then we'll continue the discussion as needed.
Item 9C, which is approve addenda contracts. Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the board approve the addenda contracts.
Second.
Before we move ahead on this, I think we had, Darcy, did you want to speak on this? Exempt, is that what? Okay, because there's, okay, wasn't sure. Okay, then let's move along. Any, Mrs. Fisher, this is your issue, so.
Yeah, I don't want to pick, I guess, well, it's not that I don't want to pick specifics. I'm looking at this addenda again, and this did come up before where we pulled it and questioned why there is so much addenda. It looks to me like we're moving towards a fee schedule, or a base salary with a fee schedule for tasks. And I find it really concerning. I had asked this before, if we could get a total of what the addenda contracts are, what is our total cost for this? Is there a reason these aren't being put into a position? I know one of the items specifically on here, the addenda looks to have the same job description as the individual receiving it. And is it maybe that when we talk about it being a consultant, do we just approve snippets of consultant? Or do they have a job as a consultant and now we're giving them an addenda to be a consultant? So I guess I'm a little confused with that. I find that a little concerning, and wanted to know if there was someone HR that could explain that.
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, I believe you are speaking to the autism consultant. We had last year 4 behavior consultants, and we reduced due to reorganization to 2 behavior consultants. So part of this person's duties outside of the normal day that that position does is to support specifically some of those areas that we lost through the decrease of 2, specifically working with outside agencies, working with teams for legal cases, additional legal parameters that have risen around high-profile cases. So this particular addenda supports the work that is outside of the normal autism consultant job.
Okay. When I looked at my historical records, just going through my files from when I first got on the board, and I kind of looked through these, the job title of the individual receiving this addenda was autism consultant. So did we change her from autism consultant to something else, and now we're going to give her an addenda to be a consultant? I guess that's, I'm confused on that. And it may well be that we did do that, and it's just.
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, again, the additional duties added on to this person's workload due to reorganization, the title for this person remains autism consultant. That title has not changed. The addenda is to address duties that that position didn't have previously due to 4 behavior consultants in addition to the autism consultant, a reduction of 2 from the 5 total.
I guess I'm confused. Maybe I'm confused because I know that, okay, we pay addenda to teachers to do football or basketball or an external thing, but we often will have a teacher say they sit in on certain meetings because we don't have individuals in that area, and we don't pay them an addenda to do that. We call it professional duty. I'm very confused with why it's professional duty for a teacher, but it's an addenda for an exempt employee. I know that as an exempt employee, our controller is now gone. I'm doing half her job, and I don't receive an addenda for it. I'm confused. I'm just concerned we're going to a fee-based or a task-based fee schedule. I guess my main request at this point is I would really like, and I did send it specifically in writing to Dr. V, but I want to make a formal request here that I would like to see all addenda. I'd prefer it to be in a spreadsheet so we could truly look at it and see if there's potentially an issue that either we're not classifying employees right and paying them correctly, or perhaps we need to make some other adjustments. But I'm concerned that we just keep adding addenda to individuals for each task that they gain, rather than having it be other duties as assigned, or because it is within their job. This one caught me specifically because the title is the exact same as the title of the addenda. That's like saying you're a math teacher, but we're going to give you an addenda to teach math. I just am I find this very confusing. So that's my request.
Let's take it and let's move on. And any other comments before I call the vote? Call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
No.
4-1. Moving on, 10A, preview Esperanza Elementary School Modernization Project. Jim.
President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weidenheimer, I want to welcome up to the podium our friends from ADM Group, the architects that are working on the project, Mr. Ben Barcone and Ms. Tara Grenier. I was thinking when we were doing the celebrations that Ms. Grenier might be appreciative of the efforts of Levi. She's a hockey mom, or at least was a hockey mom at one point in time, and I wanted to also recognize this is the second evening that they spent with us. They're also avid supporters of the foundation event. We're there last evening, so thank them for that. Just real briefly, I'll set this up. They have a presentation to give you in terms of where we're at in the process. As you know, we have switched the project for this coming summer, the modernization project. We're scheduled to do one a year to the Esperanza campus. We've been working diligently with ADM Group and Core Construction, as well as our team, to come up with the design. The school has been involved. Not only the principal, but the school staff have been instrumental in being able to help us develop the design. We're going to share with you this evening where we're at in the process of the design at kind of a 50,000-foot level. So it'll be at a very high level. What we intend to do is bring back the actual guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, for the project at our next meeting, March 8th, for your approval. So this evening is just to get some feedback on some of the efforts and what we're including in the design to make sure that we're not missing the mark. The formal approval will happen at the next meeting, again, March 8th. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Barco.
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Vettenheimer. The hockey ma'am with me tonight is Tara Grenier. She is our Director of Design. If you don't know Tara, I'm sure you know her work. Barry Goldwater, Constitution, Sunrise, Deer Valley Middle School, Sonoran Foothills, and now she's going to be working on this project. So I can guarantee you the quality that you saw there is going to be equally as impressive when we get on to Esperanza. So with that, let me turn it over to the lady that does all the work, and she can walk you through it.
Thank you. I'm going to try to make it through with my voice. I had a nice deep voice today, so sorry. So let me see how the room. So we're very familiar at ADM Group with the district's modernization goals. So to recap for the audience, there's 5 goals for every modernization that we have been a part of. The 5 goals set out by the district include safety, security, wayfinding, environment, and conservation. Just to give you a little familiarity with the Esperanza site, I've included an aerial. I won't go into too much detail because this is the existing plan, but just for reference in your packet of materials, I wanted to include this. Just to note that we have been working on Esperanza since last August. I think we had our first meeting with the principal and with district administration at the beginning, right as they were coming back to the school year, and we have been having extensive programming exercises with not only Melissa but with her staff, district administration, including various directors, kitchen consultants, David Duarte with Fine Arts, Carrie with the kitchen, and Melanie with the Media Center. So a lot of people have been involved with this process to bring it up to where it is today. From an overall site perspective, we are pretty much keeping most of the buildings fairly intact. I'll go through on the next slide real quickly just some of the overall goals. But from a site plan, some of the things that we are going to be addressing is there was some security concerns. I don't know if this has a pointer. Up here, specifically near the front entry, and there is a garbage pickup that is actually on this side of the service yard. So we are going to be reworking the service yard to flip that functionality over here and keep it out of the way of pedestrian traffic. Most of the children, they use this for parent drop-off and pickup. So we wanted to get that function free and clear. The other thing that we are going to be adding on the site is there was definitely some concern along the south property line there with visual access for students onto the adjacent property, which for those who are familiar, there's a cemetery there, so I think it brings some undue distress to some of the students. So we are going to be building a solid wall there to help block that pedestrian view. And other than that, we are going to be providing a better means of ingress over to the multi-purpose building by way of a new sidewalk that will actually bridge this crossover from the north parking lot with a more defined entry approach to the NPR. So I'm not going to read all of this because it's very lengthy, but we did identify under each of the 5 main categories for the modernization goals, what we are essentially doing. So just to point out some of the high levels, we are going to be providing a full interior remodel of the administration building so that we have a more secured approach to the campus, a single point of entry. We will also be looking at, like I said, service yard modifications. We'll be doing a full upgrade like we've done on all the other modernizations in terms of panic hardware on all of the gates, updating all of the hardware, doing any sort of fire sprinkler modifications as needed. environment, I'll go through some of the key elements on the next couple of slides. There are some buildings that will have more renovation than others, but overall the entire campus is being remodeled from above ceiling down to the floors, so that it will be completely modernized like all of the other campuses that we have done in the past. Under conservation, a few things to note. We will be going with all LED lighting throughout the entire campus, both from an exterior and interior perspective, that will be tied into the energy management system. We will be minimizing the grass areas and landscaping, so that will conserve your water. We will be providing new energy efficient lighting, energy efficient glazing throughout. Right now there's single pane and some kind of plexiglass over there, so all of that will be dual pane energy efficient, which again will help with your energy costs. And then we are going to be doing a whole lot of other plumbing upgrades, HVAC upgrades, water heater replacements to make those electric, and basically bringing everything up to code. So a couple of our key elements, without again going into too much detail, we are going to be doing a complete remodel of the administration building. The primary reason was one, to provide a single point of access. A single point of access for the visitors. The media center is going to be staying in place. We are going to be modernizing that and bringing that up to meet all of your educational standards used at your other campuses. We are relocating the main computer lab up to the front here. Currently it's further back into the campus, so again, that's meeting your educational equity of your other buildings and your other campuses. And then there was a shortage of office spaces, conference space, so we are in this remodel going to be addressing those needs as well. For building 200, this is located on the far west side of campus. Currently there's 3 kindergarten classrooms that are up here along the north. We are going to be relocating the Head Start program and the other preschool functions, so that we have all of those young student learners all in one building with full access to the existing playground. We will also be taking an underutilized bike rack that is down here and increasing their play space by making that an outdoor play environment for the Head Start program. We also are going to be updating restrooms in the current kindergarten rooms. Those are not ADA compliant. And then for the other grades, the pre-K and Head Start program, currently where those are located on campus, they do not have an adjacent restroom. And so we will be providing restroom facilities for each of those classrooms inside their classroom. Building 600, if you're familiar with that campus, today is over on the east side of property against the play field, and it currently houses the piano keyboarding room and some field restrooms. So again, all of the restrooms on campus, most of them do not comply with ADA right now, so we will be bringing all of the restrooms up to ADA compliance and updating all their fixtures. But this building will also become a true fine arts building, so we will be relocating the existing band room and the music room and all of their associated storage and office facilities, so this will become basically the music building on campus. Building 700 is the cafeteria building. The cafeteria will be having quite an extensive overhaul to it. We will be increasing the size of the servery to allow more kids to filter in there, and a lot of the equipment is outdated and in need of replacement, so there will be doing quite a bit of equipment replacement. We are going to be also adding some windows to bring in some natural daylight into that kitchen, that cafeteria space. And then the most significant part is we are going to be removing the stage, because there is a stage in the NPR building that is which they use, and this stage is not really used that much. So what we are going to be doing is taking that function out, and then at the bottom be adding a new staff break room / professional learning space adjacent to the cafeteria. And then here's our pretty pictures of the exterior. So we wanted to definitely give a little lipstick on the front of the for all intents and purposes. So we are adding a new element at the front. We're not taking down the existing overhang structure, but we are going to be adding some metal panels up here that have a nice call out with the Lobo motif on it. We're also adding some covered shade canopies for students as they're waiting for parents to pick up. And we'll be dressing up the parking lot again with LED lighting, some security fencing that runs down, that main island, which is very similar on a lot of the other campuses to help students so that they're not just running out into the parent drop-off lane. Here's an up-close view of that front entry feature. Again, kind of showing the pedestrian walkway, how that'll now curve all the way around to the front, free and clear of any delivery pickups. And then this is the new walkway over to the NPR from the north parking lot. And then an aerial perspective, just kind of showing how we're going to be cleaning up the service yard. And we'll be adding some additional parking over here by the NPR. And then this is a very high-level conceptual phasing plan. We just went over that this morning. So between ADM and core construction, we are still working with Melissa to finalize this. But the majority of the work, as you can see in yellow, will be completed over the summer. And then, like most of the other modernization projects, we will be doing basically 4-week turnovers of various other buildings. We're trying to get most of all of the work done in the summer and then leave Building 300, which is at the back of the property, to be done throughout the school year, and then hopefully wrapping up by early December. And that concludes the update.
And I'd just like to add that as a teaser for the GMP that we're talking about, so we had $7 million set aside of the 2013 bond and another $500,000 worth of adjacent ways related to this project for a total of $7.5 million. We were well in excess of that from the wish list, which always happens with these projects, but through the efforts of the great team that we have working on this, we think we have this well within that. So the construction dollars would be right around $6.5 million, including the adjacent ways. That's what we intend to bring to the board for the March 8th meeting.
Very good. Any other questions, comments?
Very pretty.
Okay, this is just a preview item. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Bear, wait.
Just kidding.
Whoops. Sorry, a little misfire there. I do have a question. There have been reports, complaints, whatever, in the last, several years that there are issues in that school with mold. Are you aware of any of that?
It has been brought to our knowledge, and basically most of all the exterior walls, we are going to be taking off the existing gyp board and doing new furring. So anything that would be evidence or show any evidence, that will certainly be treated during the course of construction.
So if in the process of doing this, if you do find some mold, that'll
It will
require
be
some mold
remediated.
remediation, correct?
Yes, it will be remediated.
Yeah, and then what does that do to the bid?
It wouldn't have contingency. It would be looked at it from a contingency standpoint. There's a certain dollar amount that's held in the owner contingency that should there be anything of excess that would warrant an increase in the cost, then that should be covered by contingency.
Okay, so you're well aware of the potential issue there.
We've been notified. We haven't seen any evidence of it yet, but we've been notified that there are concerns that there might be evident once we start taking out materials and finding stuff underneath.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was just a preview item, so there is no vote on that. 2016-2017 Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. Where do we begin?
Good evening, President Gregoire, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer. Tonight we'll be presenting you with recommendations for the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Jean Copen, Manager of Administrative Leadership and Services, who facilitated the committee and will be leading tonight's presentation.
Good evening, President Gregoire, governing board members, Vice President Bayer, and Dr. Weitenheimer. I'm pleased to present you the Student Rights and Responsibility Handbook proposed changes for the 2016-17 school year. I would first like to acknowledge the 20 members of our committee that was comprised of the following individuals in the table. These individuals represented parents, teachers, classified staff, counselors, school administration, and district administration. Additionally, we had representation for all the regions, Title I schools, DVEA, and K-12 grade level configurations. If the committee members are here, I would like them to stand and be recognized for their hard work and sticking in here till 9:05 tonight. Thank you. 3 of our wonderful committee members will be presenting with me tonight. Mark Anderson, principal of Highland Lakes, Cheryl Heath, special education teacher at Copper Creek Elementary and DVEA representative, and Brittany Behrens, AP Honors chemistry teacher at Boulder Creek High School. The committee began working together on November 10th, and we met 5 times over the past 3 months. During the first meeting, the committee made a commitment to capture the voices of the stakeholders they represented through various loop-out groups. This was critically important as we began to reconstruct this handbook. Committee members met with student advisory group, building leadership team, DVEA, with the principals through principal level meetings, assistant principals through their assistant principal meetings, and executive cabinet. Each committee member began with loop-out reports at the beginning of our meetings, which included input from all of those stakeholder groups. The committee also wanted to keep the governing board informed of our progress throughout our meeting schedules, so after each committee meeting, the board received were provided updates through the Friday updates. DVUSD department directors updated handbook sections pertaining to their work to ensure that all of their work in the handbook was up to date and current. And the committee also established a committee website that housed all of our meeting materials and minutes, and this was available and open to the public through the DVUSD website. There was also an email created for the committee so it could receive community feedback throughout the process via this link on the website.
The SR&R Handbook Committee's purpose is to recommend revisions to the 2016-2017 DVUSD Students' Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. The committee focused its work into 5 areas. I will briefly describe each area for this introduction, but each outcome will be addressed in greater detail later in the presentation. First, the committee rewrote the DVUSD behavior philosophy to reflect the district's commitment to the positive behavior programs that have been established in all of our schools. The committee also worked to clarify the discretionary statements for consequences in the discipline matrix and better guide parents and administrators on discipline decisions and appeal processes. The committee reviewed every topic that was in our current SR&R handbook. Some topics were removed because they were no longer current or applicable. The committee and various loop-out groups added additional topics that needed to be addressed to capture current events or new direction. All other topics were reviewed by departments and the committee to ensure clarity and accuracy. The SR&R committee also saw a need to reorganize the SR&R handbook to increase accessibility for our stakeholders. Lastly, the committee created a recommended list of trainings and communication topics for administrators, teachers, students, parents, and community. The committee considered a number of resources during our committee meetings. These resources provided the team with current research and best practices in the area of behavior management. We also considered the topic of equitable practices by consulting literature and presentations from the Office of Civil Rights, American Civil Liberties Union, and Arizona Department of Education. The committee also considered 2 Hanover research reports
concerning alternatives to suspension and using positive behavior interventions and supports to provide equitable discipline. The committee also referenced governing board policy throughout the revision process. Other district SR&R handbooks were also used to provide benchmarks for our handbook. Additionally, the ALS department attended 3 conferences: MCESA Unconference, Discipline Alternatives, ADE Principal Law Conference, ADE Safe and Supportive Schools Conference. These conferences provided a menu of current behavior topics that range from legal guidance to classroom strategies.
Hi guys. Everything about this handbook is different, starting with the cover. This is a visual representation of the committee's commitment to recreate this handbook for our stakeholders. The committee didn't just edit what was already in the handbook. Our work was a reconstruction through new eyes, addressing current issues and concerns. The picture of the students is a symbolic representation of the handbook's student-centered focus. For the past 3 years, Deer Valley has benefited from grant funding provided through the Arizona Department of Education to support positive behavior management implementation in all of our schools. All Deer Valley schools have developed proactive social-emotional programs that provide a framework of support for student behavioral needs. The committee wanted to communicate the district's commitment to safe, supportive environments that are conducive to teaching and learning. If you would please reference page Roman numeral 3, it should be blue, marked blue, up top, looks like. You will find the behavior philosophy. Below the philosophy, you will find the positive prevention framework. These 2 sections serve as an introduction to the handbook and set the expectation of the student-centered approach in the prevention and intervention of student behavior management. When disciplinary decisions must be made, a student-centered approach demands that we consider the unique circumstances surrounding each student's behavior. You will notice that for each of the infractions, there are recommended consequences which suggest a range of consequences. This allows an administrator to consider the student's age, developmental level, context of action, and previous infractions when considering appropriate consequences. The committee, consisting of parents, teachers, campus, and district administration, felt it was important to extend disciplinary discretion to our school administrators so they can make decisions in the best interest of the students and take opportunities to reteach behavior. The SR&R handbook is not a book of rules that blindly assigns consequences to infractions. It is intended to provide guidance for discipline decisions and allows administrators the ability to work with teachers, families, and students to determine appropriate interventions and consequences. You can find the full discretionary statement on page 50, I believe that's a green tab, above the discipline guidelines.
As mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, the SR&R handbook has undergone significant changes. The table of content exemplifies the significant amount of changes to the topics that were deleted, added, and changed within the handbook. Please turn to page Roman numeral 5, which is the yellow tab, to reference the first page of the table of contents. Topics that are complete strike-through, such as community behavior on campus, are topics recommended to be eliminated because they are captured in other areas of the handbook. The information is outdated or the topic was better suited in another resource. Any content in the handbook that has a strike-through is being recommended for deletion. Topics that are partial strike-through, such as student dress code, have remained in the handbook but renamed. In some cases, the content has been edited. Topics that are highlighted in yellow, such as food and nutrition, are new topics to the SR&R. The committee believes that these changes provide relevant, timely information to staff, parents, and students. If you would please reference page 17, which is the pink tab. The topic, Food and Nutrition, provides valuable information to parents about their rights to the National School Lunch Program, informs them of their nutritional value of their child's meals, promotes safe eating in the cafeteria, and gives guidelines for smart snacks regulations for classroom parties. Throughout the handbook, you'll find topics that are partially or entirely highlighted in yellow. These topics have been updated and revised to reflect the most current information and guidance. One of the topics that has been significantly revised is threat management process. If you'd please reference page 42 or the orange tab. The threat assessment process is a tool that campus administration and school teams use to assess a threatening situation and, if necessary, create a plan to minimize the risk of future threat. This topic has been rewritten to provide sequential steps through the process and highlight an extra layer of support that was needed, the Psychologist Advisory Board. Other new topics such as crisis management, campus emergency plans, and homeless students provide our stakeholders with valuable information. We have also added boundary maps and school directories for our stakeholders as additional references. In addition to content revisions, the committee wanted to address the handbook's ease of accessibility. The committee is recommending organizational features that will make the handbook an easier resource for staff, students, and parents to use. The committee began by reorganizing the table to contents into an alphabetical list of topics. The topics are also in alphabetical order within the handbook. Parent representatives assisted the committee in renaming topics to better represent the content and provide for easier identification. On page 19, the purple tab, you will find the guide to solving problems and getting answers fast document. This guide provides details for the chain of command guidelines in Governing Board Policy KE-R. The guide will assist parents and community members in finding the correct staff members to respond to their needs. DVUSD values solving problems efficiently at lowest steps, and the majority of questions and problems are answered best by school personnel. This document will serve as a convenient resource for our families and improve communication. Throughout the handbook, you will find website links to ARS language, ADE resources, DVUSD website resources, and governing board policy. When this handbook is viewed electronically, the links will provide quick access to additional information.
The SR&R committee is very proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish as a team. The committee has organized a very high quality collection of information, and we believe this handbook is going to be a very useful resource for our stakeholders. However, the committee realizes that even the best of handbooks will not be optimally effective without proper training for staff, students, and parents. So as part of our committee work, the committee has identified ideas for parent, staff, and student training, and will develop this list more fully once the SR&R handbook has been approved. The ideas you see in this table are beginnings of ideas that we had brainstormed as a team, and we believe that they are important. Once the SR&R handbook is adopted, the Administrative Leadership and Services Department will take the committee's recommendation for training and develop a deployment plan. The expectations will be for all schools to share the information within the SR&R handbook with families and students during the fall of each year. The ALS department will be working with schools to identify best practices for communicating the contents to students and families. This will include students and families who join DVUSD throughout the year also. Our goal is to ensure that every student understands the content of this handbook and that families know how to access information when they need it. Additionally, ALS will be communicating the information within the handbook in the following ways. We'll have hard copies available in every school office. We will have the handbooks posted on the DVUSD website. Every school will have this handbook posted on their school website or have a link to the district book, the handbook. And lastly, parents and students acknowledge receiving this book with a signature at the beginning of the year. On behalf of the SR&R committee, I would like to thank the governing board for your consideration of our recommendations. We welcome any feedback and guidance that the board would like to offer our committee, and this item will be scheduled to come before you for a second reading.
Okay. Before we open the questions, I have one. Is SR&R having any more scheduled meetings? You guys have any more scheduled? Are you consider the work done? The reason I ask is if there's an abundance of questions here that SR&R can take the feedback from the board and bring forth. That makes sense?
President Gregoire, the 5 meetings that I listed at the beginning, those were our scheduled meetings. We had anticipated as a committee that based upon your recommendations that we would need to reconvene, but we haven't set dates
that's
yet.
again, I wasn't sure if you're open to that or not. So with that, I would ask board members to speak. Anyone? Mrs. Fisher.
Sorry, I turned my mic on. I always forget that. I want to thank you for your work. I know it's a lot to sit on these committees. My one regret is that the board did not meet in a study session or something to review and possibly provide input to begin with. Because we didn't, as I reviewed this, I just really feel that we as a board need to openly discuss it. And I have requested that it be put on a study session. Is it going to be?
It has.
Okay, so it will be part of our study session on the 10th. But with that being said, I have a few questions that I started writing and I got up to like 15 and I said, okay, whoa, I gotta back them down a little. So I'm gonna just pick a few and hopefully get some input. If there's a possibility, I can email others and then get that before the study session so that we can talk, okay? I'll just kind of try and pick the main ones. I guess this is kind of, was there a discussion of possibly splitting this into a student rights and responsibilities handbook and a guide to Deer Valley handbook? I'm seeing a lot of content in here that really is not necessarily student rights and responsibilities, and I think our students are getting lost in boundaries and other additional information. Was that considered at all?
President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher, we did not specifically talk about splitting the handbook. One of the things that we did in considering different resources, we did look at several other district handbooks to kind of benchmark ourselves against that. Some of the topics that are recommended for deletion kind of fall in that category that you're talking about. We didn't feel that they really fell into this handbook. So the discussions revolved more about topic deletions at first. Several topics were up for additions through our loop out groups. People would throw in topics and we would discuss those as a committee if they belonged in the handbook. So each topic that you see in there was discussed as, is this the correct resource for this topic? Is this where people would go to look for this information?
Okay. My second question is, was restorative justice at any point considered in the committee?
President Gregoire, Ms. Fisher, yes, restorative justice, we actually read several articles using that terminology. Restorative justice is a program.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a school that is using Title I funding to send some staff members through the training.
Okay.
But we do recognize that that is a cost, and so to specifically mention that program, we chose not to put that in the handbook. There are restorative practices in one of the 4 bullets under the philosophy. We talked about the practices because the philosophy falls right in line with all of the training we have done for PBIS.
See, I did see that in there, and that was the last I saw of it as I went through the book. It seemed more of a cumulative, we talk about progressive discipline, but as I read through it, it's not progressive, it's cumulative. Progressive is used in the statement, but it's cumulative in the definition. So I'm just not sure if that was something that was considered. I know you said it earlier, and I saw I think I read it somewhere in statute that we need to have an alternative to suspension. I didn't see a real alternative to suspension in the book. Is that, did I just miss it?
President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher, I'm not familiar with that statute that you're referencing.
You're wrong, so
okay. We
it
did
would've
read
been
an article, a Hanover research to alternatives to suspension, and part of the conferences that we mentioned, that ALS department, there was a lot of workshops and things that districts have moved in that direction. Again, that was falling outside the realm of this committee. That would probably be some more committee work to develop. It's quite a development when districts take that on. We tackled that subject more through the discretionary, especially in the area of training with administrators, finding that discretion and basing it on each individual case, because all suspension is something obviously that is hurtful to our system. It is like the least it's the consequence that administrators do not want to issue. It hurts us academically to have kids out of school. It is often very ineffective in trying to change behavior. And under the PBIS framework, one of the cornerstones of that framework is that we reteach behavior and we select consequences that are going to change behavior. Punitive systems run out real quick, and that is going to be part of that has been part of the 3-year rollout of PBIS, is retraining our schools to frame out their schools in a preventative intervention framework. And that's why we felt it necessary in the beginning with the philosophy to have that right up front, so that that is framing everything that we do as far as behavior management.
I didn't see a lot of preventative measures as going through. I didn't see a lot of preventative. I mostly saw punitive. I in certain sections. So I will go back through and I'll read it and I'll look specifically for that. It's just something I had noted in one of my questions, but that's one I can mail, and I'll go back and look specifically, see if I can find preventative versus punitive. I noticed there are some new sections, and I know that there was legislation that would dictate that we'd have to put those sections in. Are they boilerplate, or is it something that we came up with, or classes specifically in safe schools and things like that? Was that some of that boilerplate, or is that just based on documents that we read through?
President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher, I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. Like, was there a
few
template provided?
Yeah, there's a few new sections. I know that, well, one of them, okay, you said you put in the food section. Did we get boilerplate from somewhere to start us? Is that something that was created? Was smart snacks included in that, which currently went through our legislature? Is that, or is it just something that we?
Yeah, President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher, yes. Our Director of Food Services wrote that information. Some of it is, yes, it needed to be communicated, and it was, that particular section was is not in our current handbook.
Okay. And then I just have one more, or well, actually, I have two more, but I'll do the important one first. Is when we were going through the chart of punishments and looking at the minimums, maximums, which I'm not crazy about the minimums because it means you have to at least do that. Even with discretion, the principal feels they have to at least do that. Did we go through each of the what they are set and review the whether or not those were, do we look for consistency and reasonableness? One that really struck me was the tagging and graffiti has the exact same punishment of sexual abuse and child molestation. That to me, that just jumped out to me, which is, did we review that type of, I mean, if my kid tags something, he's seriously going to pay for it, and absolutely I want him to face a consequence and I want him to pay restitution. But if my child is sexually assaulted, I want that kid to get more than a 3-day suspension. Did we go through those line by line?
President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher. So that was a conversation that consumed almost one of our whole meetings. We talked about in the chart there, in the current chart, there is no recommended word, and we felt that, for one, the minimum, if you were new to Deer Valley, if you're a veteran to Deer Valley, you understand deeply discretion, you understand discretion. If you're a new administrator, we felt that by not putting recommended, that the minimum column would kind of say to somebody, this is what has to happen. The minimum is a recommendation as well as the maximum. We looked at the different handbooks, and there was a whole spectrum of ways to communicate the ranges of consequences. Everything from a very prescriptive book that almost locked administrators into a step-by-step disciplinary process that they had to go through for each infraction, and then progressive also. So if it's the first one, this is what happens. Second one. We felt that was almost going against our discretion. That's almost locking our administrators into not being able to consider different situations. They would just have to consider the infraction. So that was not the feeling of the committee, that's what we wanted to do. We also looked at handbooks where the minimum was, every minimum was a conference and every maximum was an expulsion, no matter what the infraction. So there were handbooks that were also wide open like that allowed what we felt was too much discretion, because there are certain infractions that we feel would warrant, just by nature, more than a conference.
Okay, and then the final
but
question.
That is something that if that's under a recommendation.
Well, I'm just gathering information so that y'all don't have to be at the study session if you don't want to. Just things that. And the last one is, was it considered the mission, vision, and core values, aligning it with them?
President Gregoire, Mrs. Fisher, that is always the foundation of everything we do. We do always keep that in the forefront of our mind, and the PBIS structure that we have been working on as a district really encapsulates all of those. That is why Deer Valley took that framework to heart, and it really is fitting into the foundations of our school. So through that philosophy statement and the framework, which is our multi-tiered system of supports framework, we felt as a team that everything we had said was in line with our core values and our mission and vision. Our philosophy statement had actually, when we first started out, I think we had like 15 bulleted items. We did an activity where we really tried to use power in our language, and so the 4 bullets that you see in the book took a lot of discussion, a lot of work to get it to say what we really meant, and that so we would really be aligned with who we are as a district, and it would reflect what's really happening in our schools.
I'll reserve any other questions for the study session.
And I would ask Ms. Fisher if you have the opportunity to have maybe some direct conversations with members of the committee before our study session.
I don't want to outstep the board, but
no. Again, you're the one with a lot of concerns. My main concern is the breadth of the changes, but I'll save that for the study session. And Mrs. O'Brien.
Well, Mrs. O'Brien, and then
I just wanted to say thank you to all the committee members for your hard work quickly, and that I love page 19. Thank you very much for including that. There are lots of questions about those procedures, and it's nice to be able to actually point them, or will be nice to point them to a place. So thank you so much.
I too like page 19, although I don't have any students that will be utilizing any pages after this year. My request is that any questions that any of the board members have that are going to be asked of whomever in whatever way, whether it be verbal or emailed, all of the board members need to have the questions and the answers, because I do want to go into a study session now that I know what it's about and be able to be prepared so it can go well. So that's my request. Thank you.
I agree with Ms. Ordway. Is there a certain way we want that done? Are we going to email? Because that's why I say I would rather not. It's not that I don't want to talk to committee members. Of course I want your feedback, but I don't want to overstep the other members.
I have some questions. My intention after tonight's preview, because some of them were answered this evening, is to now look at the rest of them and forward them to Dr. Weitenheimer
right, that's
for
Make it
Send them
incumbent
to
upon-
you, and like our process is to send them
I
to
think,
you.
yeah, and I think the best course of action is to at least share with the committee members what you want to know, so they're prepared to highlight it or present it in a way that
So,
you want it addressed.
Again, I think
so
maybe
it-
the methodology is the board members are going to present. Let's do it by the end of this week so we can expedite this. That's possible.
How about
And-
quite early next week?
How about as soon as possible? And Dr. Weitenheimer will, hopefully you can convene the committee one more time to address these questions. And that way you don't have to, well, you're going to have to convene one more time anyway. So, and that way you can answer the questions to your best ability, or then when we have our study session, we'll have our questions and answers. And so.
Oh, okay. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking about making sure that they understood what you wanted them to address at the study session. But you want them to answer
Oh,
the
no,
questions?
I think your way's great. Just
I
we'll
think we
send it
just want
you,
to
and
make
then
sure
you
that
tell us-
board members'
yeah.
questions are given to them so that they can respond to exactly what you want to know about, rather than trying to answer it and then have to go into explaining it and
Okay.
clarifying it,
Good
those
enough.
kind of things. Okay, perfect.
Good enough.
Happy to do that.
Okay, let's move on. Public comment, we have two speakers, actually a third, but I will have to speak with them after the meeting, unfortunately. They didn't get it in time, and I want to make sure they're addressed, but I can't do it. I can't.
Thank you, committee.
I can't do it per protocols, unfortunately. So Darcy Tweedy, then Lauren Sheehan. State your name when you get to the microphone.
Okay, I'll be quick. I know it's really late. I had a concern on behalf of the certified employees, and I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. I was looking at the FLSA Fair Labor Standards, and teachers are clearly classified as exempt employees. And on this leave conversion, like if they leave up to an hour, they're docked 1.3 hours. If they leave 1 to 2 hours, it's 2.7. They're not paid any additional compensation, so they're treated as exempt employees when they are required to do extra work. But then when they leave, they're treated like hourly employees, and I don't understand how they can be treated both ways. The district office exempt doesn't have a schedule like this. And then they're also occasionally paid addendums for extra work. And then sometimes that extra work is noted as extra days. But then there's principals who work extra days in the summer to hire staff to come back to school. So it doesn't seem professional responsibilities are defined for either exempt group, but some get paid for some things, some don't. And then some get docked for hourly stuff and some don't. And I don't understand how you can have two groups of exempt employees and treat them different. So I just would like to know, if the teachers are hourly, then I think they should start being paid time and a half for any additional work. And if they're exempt, you need to treat them exempt. Either way, but I would just like the board to look into this, and I have the information. Thanks.
Thank you. Lauren?
President Gregoire, members of the board, I'm Lauren Sheehan, president of the Building Leadership Team, and I am excited to thank you for approving the proposed NST salary increases this evening. I think that the best part of the approval of those salary increases was the fact that all three groups, classified, administrative, and certified members, came together in compromise and in happiness and joy to share in the benefit of the override fund. So thank you for approving that. We'll continue to work together as a triad as we develop new recommendations with additional monies if we receive them from the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Meetings are posted. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, wait,
Wait, is there one more?
was that Venice? Venice, I'm sorry, we have it listed. This was turned in late, and I want to talk to you afterwards. I'll speak to you in a moment on this. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned.